Decobie Durant gets a big-time cosign. Christian Peters is a fiery leader with a new mindset in his redshirt sophomore year. And Will Jones is no longer the head basketball coach for North Carolina A&T. Oh, yeah. It's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part on Podcast Network, your team every day. And now, of course, I am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald sports editor. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It means that it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives, right there on the graphic below. And we are still taking a break. I don't think I'm going to point at the graphic this week. All right. We're still taking breaks. I might even practice. Boom, boom. All right. I might practice. Right. But anywho, we're starting off today's episode with another HBCU from the preseason. Last week, it was Shamar Bridges. We're coming back on today. Talk about yet another player who is really taking advantage of his opportunity, and that is Decobie Durant. Now, did you know that Decobie Durant and Kevin Durant were cousins? If you didn't, ain't no shame about it, right? Because Kevin didn't even know. Kevin himself did not even know that Decobie Durant and he were related until Saturday, and he tweeted it out. He said, somehow this is my cousin. I'm a Rams fan now. Now, I want to take a quick break to divert to the person who had the original post that brought it to Kevin's attention. Wasn't a funny joke. It wasn't. He tried to make a Kevin Warriors, Decobie Rams analogy, and wasn't funny. Do better. Now let's get back to the matter at hand, right? So Kevin took that joke in stride, right? And that joke is old. Like, come on, we gotta stop at this point. The joke is old. But Kevin took that joke in stride much better than I would have. And I'm not even a Kevin Durant fan, so I could care less, but he took it in stride. That's the point. Let's get on base, right? And he said, that's my cousin. Now, though that's how it was brought to his attention, trust and believe he's not saying that if Durant isn't hooping. I'm talking about Decobie. If Decobie is not hooping, saying that, let's just be very clear. Claiming somebody as your cousin, especially when you're Kevin Durant. I'm just saying Kevin and Decobie right now instead of saying Durant. When you're Kevin and you're one of the biggest basketball players in the world, you're not claiming some random person with the last name Durant. There's multiple Durants in the league. I ain't never heard him say that about anybody else, right? So he tweeted out, somehow this is my cousin. I'm a Rams fan now. That's because Decobie was balling. That's because Decobie was making plays. That's because Decobie had highlights up on the Rams Twitter page that he could easily see. That's why he was able to say that, and that's why he said it. I know a bunch of people with the last name Gray. If they not doing well, I'm not claiming them. Unless they really blood to me, then I'm going to claim them, but they probably aren't, and I don't know if they are. So I remember there was a player back in the day, Jonathan Gray. I think that was his name. I think he went to like a Lido. Man, I used to fake claim him as my cousin all the time because he was balling. But if Jonathan Gray was a scrub, what I'm going to claim him for? And that's the same way that I'm looking at Kevin Durant. If Decobie is not playing for Kevin to come out and put the stamp on him, and that's really what he did. There's so many more eyes that came to Decobie because of that Kevin cosign. Because it's preseason. A lot of people aren't even checking for preseason, but Kevin Durant come out and state this my cousin. Now, all that being said, I don't think it's his cousin. It wasn't meant to say that's my actual cousin. It's just it's a fake claim. Like I said, with Jonathan Gray, a fake claim. However, it is still a stamp of, hey, you was really balling out there. And that's what it was, right? And that's true. Last week, I don't feel like Decobie, I'm going to say Durant. I'm referring to Decobie. We're done with Kevin. Last week, I didn't feel like Durant got a lot of snaps. It just feel like I didn't see him a lot. Mic'd up. That was fun. I did enjoy that. However, he just didn't get many opportunities. This week he had 23 snaps, I believe. I think that was an upgrade from last year, and he took advantage of it. And he had 3 plays that I want to go over. There was 2 plays that I feel like got a lot of recognition, and then there's 1 play that I feel didn't get as much recognition. However, it should, and I'm gonna go to that one at the very end. Okay, so the first play was the pass breakup. That's the one that got the Sean McVay stamp of the thumbs up of approval, right? And McVay is just a funny guy when it comes to his mannerisms. When you just look at how he moves, McVay, but he gave him the thumbs up. Just kind of, yeah, you did that thumbs up. Now, with that being said, let's get to the actual play aside from just the coach's thumbs up. Durant was covering the wide receiver who was running a post, not a post, but a corner route out of the slot. So he got up the field, and at the break point, he went outside at an upward angle, right? Just to quickly define what a corner is. But he ran a corner route, and Durant went into trail position at that point. So he was right on his hip for the most part, maybe a slight step on his hip, but he was never out of position, right? He could have had the burst. He could have made a play on the ball at all moments. Now, the ball was not thrown. However, the reason this play was impressive because it showed his instincts. Decobie Durant chose the right time. You can play the ball, you can play the man, but Decobie Durant chose the right time to play the ball after playing the man. So he started the wide receiver, but when he started going to where the receiver was running, he undercut the route, and it wasn't a last minute. It wasn't really early. However, it just showed instinctually, I can see where this ball is going. Cut the route, and he was in better position to catch it than the wide receiver. Then end up coming down with the interception. However, it was still a big time play, and he showed that swagger. He showed that bravado after that I feel like most good corners are going to have. So we appreciated that. Then the next play was a sack, and if he's going to play that position for the Rams, which is essentially like their nickel corner, you got to be ready to get dirty. You got to be ready to mix it up. And that sack showed he could. He came off the edge with a blitz. He didn't get there. He ended up beating the right tackle and the running back. That's fine. You're a cornerback. You're probably not supposed to. You're not supposed to beat the offensive lineman, let alone the offensive lineman and the running back. However, when I believe it was still Davis Mills in the game at the time, when Davis Mills scrambled out the pocket, Durant didn't just accept getting blocked. Actually, I don't think he really engaged. He just was stonewalled. And when he saw that, he came back inside. It's all about want to. It's all about hustle. And that showed it. It showed the desire from Decobie Durant. Then the last play that I thought was really impressive was a play that I didn't watch the game. I don't know what they called this, but he forced a fumble. The ball went out of bounds, and I don't think they called it a fumble live, so they probably didn't review it. However, he forced a fumble. He gave up a catch to Nico Collins, I believe, on a curl route. That's not important which route it was or what the wide receiver was. But the point is he gave up that catch. And then as he was bringing him down to the ground, it was him and 2 other players. He stripped the ball out. That shows a playmaking ability. Now, with those 3 plays, you just saw playmaking. You just saw instincts. And then you also saw the desire, the want to, and the ability to mix it up that you're going to need from the position he's likely going to play. And this is just capitalizing off his moment. You look at how he was playing in OTAs. Jordan Fuller said he knew Durant was special from OTAs, a special talent. You look at McVay, he praised his ability to learn quickly and adapt quickly. Durant has played a lot of outside and a lot of inside, but he's played mostly on the inside. That's the position he's probably going to play. That's that star, that nickel. And that physicality, that ability to come off of the edge and actually get a sack, that's something that he's going to need to be able to do. When I talk about playing that star position, when I talk about playing that nickel position, his sack came on the blitz, which he'll likely do from the nickel, and he was very close. He was probably in the slot. It was a tight copy. I couldn't see, but he was probably from the slot. So that fumble, let's just say, was from the slot. Or excuse me, that sack was from the slot. That pass deflection, he was covering the wide receiver from the slot. So if you're looking at the plays that he's making during the preseason, it's most likely in the position he'll be playing once the regular season starts. He's not playing outside and has to transition to the inside. He's making plays like sacks and pass breakups from the slot now, so you can already kind of see him making plays from the slot once the season begins. Going forward, we're going to be talking about Christian Peters, who is trying to get his starting position back at Shaw. But before we get into that, let me tell you about BetOnline. Guys, Usman got knocked out. Now, a lot of people were putting money down on Usman. And, the lines move as the fight goes. This man was dominating the fight and got knocked out in the last minute of the fight. It was one of the craziest fights I've seen in a long time, and you could tell the people who had money on who. You had money on Edwards. People were like, oh, it was a different reaction. I hope you put that money down on BetOnline. If you put the money down on Edwards, I guarantee you got a big payout, right? The NFL season is here. We got one more preseason game now, and then it's big dogs. It's time for the regular season. Put your money down on BetOnline. The NBA is coming. It's not too far away. We have a basketball topic here today. We're approaching the season as we speak. Put the money down on BetOnline. NHL, MLB, combat sports, like I said. Whatever you choose to do, just make sure when you're putting money down, it's only one place to put it, and that's BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all of your favorite sports. Line, where the starts. We keep rolling on today's episode of Locked on HBCU, and I appreciate you for making us your first listen of the day every day. And now, the Ultimate College Football Preview is here. It's a 7-episode preview with the college experts, local Odyssey college football insiders. It's everything that you could need for the college season all in one spot. And the season is here, y'all. It's week 0. The season is here. Make sure you are searching the Ultimate College Football Preview on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. And today's word of the day is epitome, meaning a typical or ideal example. Now, Christian Peters be the starting quarterback for Shaw this year. He was a starting quarterback for Shaw last year. It didn't start that way, and it didn't end that way. And those two things are concerning. And that's kind of the conundrum that you get yourself into because, yeah, Christian Peters had a good little run while he was there. However, he didn't start the season. He didn't end the season. And most importantly, he didn't end the season. That's what's important, right? Because it's okay not to start the year. He actually wrestled away the starting quarterback position from Torrance Campbell in just a week. After week 1, he was the starting quarterback. Now, you can say what you want about Campbell. That doesn't look great upon him. However, for Peter's side, which is what we're viewing right now, we're not viewing just a Shaw quarterback position. We're talking about Christian Peters within the Shaw quarterback position. So everything we're speaking on is from Peters' point of view, or speaking on the point of view of speaking on Peters, I should say, right? So after week 1, it was Peters' job. And I felt as if that 2nd through 5th week of the season, he was playing really good. He had a solid 4 games. He had over 100 some odd game. He had a couple of yards on the ground as well. He was playing well. He was playing efficient. They scored 40 or more points, which can't be said when he wasn't on the field. They did that twice when he was a starter. So there were some good things from there, but clearly the team wanted more out of their quarterback. He was just a redshirt time. Now he's a redshirt sophomore, but clearly they wanted more as Campbell ended up coming back and starting at the end of the season, multiple games. I don't know what led to the inconsistency because there was a taper in the stats of Christian Peters. There was a taper there. It was a taper where he started off up here and his stats started going down. He had 20 yards per game, 8 attempts, 5 attempts. You start seeing Campbell get more attempts. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if it was injury. I don't know if it was just pure inconsistency. I don't know what the reasoning was. And he's not trying to make excuses, so I won't make excuses for him. I'm just saying, I don't know what it was. I didn't watch all the games. I would have to watch them and see. So after he loses his job back to Campbell, Campbell is still here. Now it's those two going head to head. Now it's those two saying, all right, we're coming for this job, but we're trying to make sure that we continue to keep the job. It's no more back and forth. Hot potato at the quarterback position doing good, and people actually have expectations for Shaw. We got to remember the AFCA actually gave them some top 25 votes. They didn't get in the top 25, but they did give them top 25 votes. So with that being said, there's expectations. You can't be hot potato in the quarterback position and want to be a top 25 team. I'll say this. If it's not due to injury and they go starting quarterback A to starting quarterback B to starting quarterback A, that team is not ending in the top 25. Unless it's due to injury and it was unavoidable. If it's strictly due to bad play, you're not doing it. So what is Peters doing to make sure that he gets the job and does not relinquish it? Well, He's came back with a different attitude. He's came back with a different mindset. And when I say attitude, I should say leadership quality. Now, this isn't scientifically backing, but it is mouth of the South backing. This is not scientifically backed. It's it's mouth of the South backed. And that is the fact that a lot of football players want to be basketball players. You see it, right? Story back in the day, I had a friend, Nate, man, a linebacker. We was linebackers together. And for some reason, Nate just wanted to be a hooper so bad. If we weren't actively practicing at practice, this man be practicing his jump shot on the air. That's Nate, though. And that's my guy. But that man wanted to be everything. He wanted to be a quarterback. He wanted to be a wide receiver. He wanted to be a hooper. He wanted to be everything, but he wanted to be a basketball player. And that's something that a lot of football players share. That's why you have the stigma of what football players play basketball like, right? Now, Nate went on to get a scholarship to play linebacker in college and then end up playing, but that's neither here nor there because this isn't the story of my boy Nate, but shout out to him. But the point is, a lot of football players want to be basketball players. Not a lot of football players are basketball players. And the energy that comes from Christian Peters in camp this year, that according to some, is kind of showing his basketball background. And it wasn't like, oh yeah, he played ball back in the day. No, he actually got a scholarship to play ball at Winston-Salem, but he turned it down because he's a football player now. Now, what that example is fire. Getting in people's face after a good play. Cheering on, make sure his team gets together. There's different ways to be a leader, but the goal of a leader at all times is to rally people. I think back to a story, which is one of the greatest stories I've ever heard in football. The story of Joe Burrow when he really got the team to rally around him at practice. Now, Joe Burrow is talking to Devin White, one of the best linebackers in the nation at this time. And he says, if you don't shut up, I'm going to punch you in the face. That's what Joe Burrow tells Devin White. And I think his first year at the school. And I mean, it started a fight, but it was at that time that the defense was able to buy in and see, okay, he's for real. Because mind you, yes, you're on offense, but your job as the quarterback is to really rally everybody. You know, you want the whole team behind you. The whole team should be able to believe in you. And it's not just, oh, I'm going to go out here and throw for X amount of yards. Sometimes it is, oh, my quarterback's just one of us. He's not separate from us. He's just one of us. That can go a long way when establishing that fiery mindset or that fiery leadership quality is something that Christian Peters has shown, and it can get people to buy in. Now to the mindset change. He said he didn't have that want to back in the day. He said, and by back in the day, I mean last year, he said, listen, when it came to just and being as serious about it, I wasn't there. I was not serious. I didn't have that want to, that grind every day, but it just clicked. Something clicked in me. Like, you can play, and I need to go with my guys to get that chemistry right, that mesh that we know what we can do on game day on Saturday. And even the idea of, okay, let me go develop this chemistry with my wide receivers is something that sounds simple, but it's something he didn't have last year. So now you see the evolution of his mindset. He went from, all right, I can play, I'm going to go out there, but now it's, I got to want it every single day and grind, and I got to go mesh with my wide receivers to make sure that we look the best. That's elevating the mindset. And some of that comes from Campbell, even though he's in a competition with him. You look at his relationship, and he's already said, the coach has said, he's done a great job watching Torrin Campbell be a true leader, and he's taken on that leadership, and he's grown a whole lot. That's what you see. That's something that is shown. It may not be what you believe is the epitome of a leader. However, it is a leadership style. And that's what's most important. Because it might not be what you think a leader should look like, but if the guys are rallying behind him because of it, then it's the leadership that Shaw needs. And we'll see whether that's the fiery leadership style now of getting in people's faces, being the high energy guy, or if it's that mindset that tells the wide receiver, oh, this is that we can trust. This is how Christian Peters is trying to make sure that he gets the job at Shaw and doesn't relinquish it. Going forward, we're going to talk about somebody who no longer has a job, and that's Will Jones. He's parted ways with North Carolina A&T. The head basketball coach is gone as they go into a new conference. We'll talk about and just the timing of the firing, who's going to be there. It's so much to unpack in this story, and we'll talk about it as we continue with Locked On HBCU. We're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU with a story that frankly, is not as positive as our other ones, right? It's not a sad story, but it's not as positive. It's not Decobie Durant shining and getting a co-sign from Kevin Durant. It's not Christian Peters evolving and changing his leadership style and mindset to the game. It's not that. Unfortunately, it's about North Carolina A&T parting ways with their head basketball coach, Will Jones. Now, the Aggies are all about new beginnings over these last couple of years. They left the MEAC to go to the Big South. Stay there for about a year. Every sport except for basketball, except for football is gone. And they are in the CAA. Now they're in a new conference once again. However, what's new beginnings without new leadership, right? And that's exactly what they decided to do, because now not only are they going into the CAA, they're going into the CAA without their coach of the last 2.5 years, Will Jones. They have decided to part ways. So it's a completely fresh start for the men's basketball team. And when you look at what Jones was able to do, kind of a mixed bag if you're just looking at the results, right? Because I understand there's context around everything, but ultimately when we're talking about coaches, it all comes down to the wins and the losses. Context around each win, the same way there's context around each loss. However, the context is kind of lost on everything because it's about what your record was. Because even with the context, we don't really care about the context of the loss. We don't. What we care about is saying, hey, yeah, you lost, but you shouldn't have. All these things, all these reasons why you lost, you should have overcame them. That's kind of how we look at things, right? It's not much benefit of the doubt when it comes to coaching. And we'll talk about how leashes get shorter due to certain things in a little bit. However, when you're looking at Jones's tenure, he had a winning record, 37-35. But you look at the first year. First year was 14-5. He never came back to that. He had a winning season the next year, but he was only 11-10. The next year he was 12-20. So if you take out that 14-5 from his career, he's no longer 37-35. Instead, he's now 23-30. And that's a losing record over the last 2 seasons. And I do think that had an impact on why he ended up leaving. It's not the full reason, but it is part of the reason on why he ended up leaving. Now, the Aggies will not have a full-time coach this year. They will go the interim route. They have already announced that they do not plan on having a coaching search. And I think that's right, because when you're looking at what time it is, it's August, nearly the end of August at that. So we're looking at basically nearly September. The season starts November 7th for them. They have their first game November 7th. That's 2 months. How extensive of a coaching search can you do and still feel like you're properly getting the team ready? Instead, they decide to go the interim route, and I think that's the right route, because trying to find a coach at the same time as trying to prepare for it is not something I want to do. Instead, I'd rather go the interim route with somebody who's already on that coaching staff, a little bit of continuity, something where you don't have to really concern yourself with learning something completely new while getting ready for the year. So I think this is proper. You got Phillip Shumpert, who is coming in, and he'll be the interim head coach for this season. And listen, he has a full year. This is kind of similar to Will Jones. Will Jones got 19 games as an interim head coach. So now Shumpert is on his way to having a true tryout. This is his tryout to see if he'll be the coach. He was coaching up the wings. He was a coach for Jay Joyner. He was a coach for Will Jones. He's been here. He actually was brought in by Joyner the last season that he coached for the Aggies. And he's been here ever since. So he's been here for the last, I guess, 3 years, 3.5 years. He came in November of 2019. So yeah, 3 years. And now this is his moment. But let's get into Will Jones, because that's what we're here to talk about. Will Jones and why he got fired. Now, according to HBCU, some of the sources that talked to him, he was suspended earlier this year, recently, and he ended up being suspended, and they thought he was going to have another year. But here's the thing. You go 23-30, that leash gets shorter. That's what I mean. You win. Now, if he would have went 30-23, he'd probably still be here today. However, you go 23-30, people looking like, yeah, all of this ain't really worth 23-30. You're not winning enough for me to decide that I want to keep you through this suspension. I don't know what the situation was. They said they will not comment on the situation due to university policy. So that leaves us here to speculate. I'm not keeping you here if you're causing trouble and you don't have a winning record over the last 2 years. Your 2 full seasons as a head coach, you don't have a winning record. That leash gets shorter. There's less that you can get away with. Clearly, they decided it wasn't worth the trouble. They were initially going to suspend him. They probably did an investigation, decided this was more than they wanted. Time to cut ties. That's what I believe happened. Simple and plain. Now, it happened very late, so we don't know everything that happened, but this is a very late firing. Overall, Will Jones will not be the coach. That's what we do know. Phillip Shumpert would have his opportunity to see if he will be the coach. That's what we do know. Who will be the coach of the Aggies in 2023 heading into 2024? We do not know at all. Maybe Shumpert, maybe somebody who's not on the coaching staff yet. We will see, but continue making your episode or continue making us of the day every day so we can keep you up to date on exactly what is happening with the North Carolina A&T basketball team. Now, for your second listen of the day, make sure you're checking our conference shows out, Locked on ACC, Locked on Big 12, Locked on SEC, and so on. Now, tomorrow we'll be back with a good friend of ours. Gerald Huggins makes his return, and he's here to talk about Isaiah Land versus Jordan Lewis. These are two of the best, arguably the two best edge players in the SWAC, and we're going to compare the two of them and see which one Gerald Huggins thinks is better. In the meantime, in between time, if you're looking for me, you can find me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.